Alyssa Wong and David Balladion pit the famous Ubi's bounty hunter Boushh against the Tagge Corporation, as Boushh and his team are hired by Crimson Dawn to kill off the company heads. But like all intergalactic assassinations, nothing is ever simple. Alyssa Wong crafts an interesting action-packed story about Boushh, a hunter whose infamy stems from the fact that he dies at some point during history and Princess Leia uses his identity to infiltrate Jabba's palace. Alyssa goes a step further and gives the character and the Ubi's race some interesting backstory along with a cool, almost Power Rangers-like team for Boushh to lead. I really like the idea of the hunters all being Ubis because of their race being so into isolation and being isolationists and never really wanting to interact with anyone else except for their own kind, and Wong explores their culture really well through little tidbits of their backstories about being exiled once they commit a crime or murder. It's really quite interesting. Alyssa also ties it into the Dr. Aphra story she's telling with Domina Tagge, and that makes a lot of sense being that she writes the Dr. Aphra book as well and has been building up Domina as a force to be reckoned with, so having it all come full circle in this great story is a lot of fun and satisfying as a reader of the Aphra series as well. David Balladion draws some fantastic Star Wars action this issue with his very clean and colourful pages. I love the designs he gave to Boushh's crew, and as I said before, it's almost very Power Ranger-like, with all of them having a different colour, with small variants to the armour so you can tell them apart from one another. His designs for Domina as well were really great, imbuing this almost tactical femme fatale aesthetic to her character, and building off of what Aphra artist Minku Jung has done with the character over in the Aphra solo series. War of the Bounty Hunters Boushh issue 1 was an interesting one-shot that added a bit more to the story of Boushh and his people, wrapping it all up in a great action thriller storyline with some fun twists and turns. I'm going to give this issue an 8.5 out of 10. War of the Bounty Hunters Boushh issue 1 heads to Ord Mantell, where a speeder stolen from Black Sun is sold off to an underworld figure, but the deal is interrupted by a blaster fire from Boushh and their team. They soon recover the speeder, returning to Black Sun where they meet Deva Lompop, who thought Black Sun wanted Boushh's head on a pike, knowing all his bad blood will catch up to him someday, and if he's unlucky, they'll send her after him. Boushh doesn't say a thing, making her crew wonder why he's so silent, so the being says that Kellen would have been 12 years old today. The team console their fearless leader as they decide to use their hard-earned credits to get some food, sharing the meal with one another as they talk about how Boushh saved Breen. They talk about how each of them were exiled from Uber 4, with Tans asking if it gets easier, but Eleni knows that it doesn't. Boushh knows that they can't replace what they lost on their world, but they are family and they are there for Tans and Eleni. Boushh remembers how being exiled cost him greatly and cost them all everything, and it doesn't matter why they did what they did, only that they committed a crime in the eyes of their elders, bringing shame on their people. The crew soon gear up and head out for their next mission, which involves meeting with Crimson Dawn, with Boushh knowing that if they have credits, that's all that matters. Margot meets with the crew, revealing that they'll be paid 200,000 credits to kill 8 targets, the entire executive board of the Tagge Corporation, all of which are the most important members of the House of Tagge. Margot reveals that they all rarely meet together, but in 2 days they will all be aboard the company flagship, the Acquisitor, but it is most important they also take down Domina Tagge, since without her, the company will crumble. Margot tells the crew that the Tagge are responsible for a great number of deaths throughout the universe, thanks to supplying the Empire with weapons and ships and equipment, and the Ubis are honorable people, so destroying this threat is a great honor. Boarding the landing too, the team know that this is just an easy mission, but Boushh warns them not to get so careless since the Tagges are a dynasty and have had centuries to grow their power and influence, and he's lost his family once, and he won't let it happen to his new family. Domina meanwhile trains with a prototype plasma blade her people have made, telling Lapin that its energy consumption is unacceptable and the next iteration will need to meet their standards. The blade loses stability, blasting her back as he tells Lapin that this will be reflected on her engineer Silas's next performance review. She tells the men she's been sparring with that they have earned a break, telling the scientist that the blade is an improvement over its predecessor's attempts to replicate the Jedi lightsaber, but it's terribly volatile and just as expensive, so the Empire won't pay for it. The intern Forth says that that's because it's cost ineffective to mass produce. getting Domina's attention as she knows that this is his first year on the ship, glad to see that he's learned how the company operates. Fourth is shocked that the woman knows his name as Domina leaves to deal with other business, learning her family are almost all aboard. She asks Lappin if Fourth is Layla's son, knowing that she will be on her best behavior lest something happen to her son. She isn't too pleased with her family, equating them all to vipers who are ready to bury a knife in her back at a moment's notice, but luckily thanks to some assassination attempts, she learned quite early that she wasn't a pawn but a player and the game was hers to win. As she dresses, Lappin asks if he is to accompany her into the meeting since he's worried, but Domina knows that he doesn't have to protect her, wanting Lappin's eyes and ears on Fourth and the interns while she speaks with their parents. Strapping on the plasma blade, she heads to the meeting with her family, who are already bickering between one another. Domina gets the meeting underway, rejecting Orman's proposal right off the bat. The bickering starts up again as Brace demands enough, knowing Domina owes them answers as to what she is planning on doing about the spies in the Tagge Corporation. The others are all outraged by this news, but Domina knows that they are already investigating the leaks. An alarm soon sounds out as Boushh and his crew have taken the ship's bridge, sealing the boardroom. Domina, however, came prepared, using the plasma blade to cut a hole in the sealed door and leave, reassuring her family she is not abandoning them, she is protecting her interests. The bounty hunters meanwhile begin their search, coming across the interns. Harrick stops Eleni from killing them as he tries to talk to the intern about where the board members are, but the hunter is killed by Domina and her blade, using it to knock Eleni down as well. The rest of the crew find the board members, keeping them pinned in the room as they work to get the door open. As the door opens, Silas Tagge runs out, but is shot in the shoulder by Boushh. Before the hunter can kill him, Silas reveals that he was the one who hired them through Crimson Dawn. He reveals that he did it because his family are in the way, especially Domina, since she doesn't recognize his genius. Domina interrupts the meeting, knowing that Silas was always the fool. She says that she knew someone in her family was the traitor, knowing the board meeting would flush them out, having it down to either being Silas, Ulrich, or Layla who is the traitor, figuring the rest of the family wasn't in on it since she knew all of their secrets and spies already. Boushh opens fire on Domina, knowing that he's got a job to do as her blade begins shorting out, wondering how much he is being offered. Boushh reveals what Crimson Dawn is paying them as Domina attacks, slicing his blaster in half, telling the hunter that he should have asked for more. The rest of Boushh's crew is apprehended as Domina orders Lappin to escort the family from the ship, with Orman worried for Domina's safety, being that her blade isn't working now. She knows her guards will protect her as she confronts Silas, knowing that she could scold him, but his only crime was getting caught. She stabs her brother, killing him and planning on pinning the death on the bounty hunters. She knows it's unusual to see an Ubis off their planet, being that they are isolationist, and it took generations for her company to even get trade routes with them. She wonders what a group of exiles are doing on her ship and how Silas managed to hire them, but figures someone else is pulling the strings. Boushh asks if she's going to have them killed, but Domina instead has an offer, wanting them to tell her who their real employer is, and in return, she will give them 300,000 credits and get them back onto Uber 4. Boushh knows that that's impossible, but Domina reveals that Tagge Corp retains a connection with the planet and thus a little leverage on them, knowing that she is giving them something no one else can give them, and if they work together, she will find them a way home. After a moment of consideration, Boushh and his crew accept the deal, telling Domina all about Crimson Dawn.